Good afternoon, all, and assalamu alaikum. Hope you're all well. Again, just before I start with today's video, please can you just watch through the whole video? I know that it's going to be a bit of a longish video, but it will save a lot of time for yourself so that you understand what you need to do. If there are any other questions that remain that you are not able to understand and comprehend, then do feel free to ask those questions. Right, first things first is you're going to do a task number 1, which is your Quran memorization. That shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. It may take you 5 minutes if you've already done your surahs. But if you remember from last week, I gave each one of you a target of memorizing 3 new surahs. I think a couple of you maybe got 2 surahs. Again, if you have done this, it should only take you no more than 5 minutes to record those on an audio file. I prefer an audio file over a video file. And then basically just send this to me either on Teams or via email. There's my email address on the slide here. If you haven't memorized anything, then you should have done that. But if you haven't, then you need to memorize 3 new verses or ayahs from the surah that you're currently on. Again, if you don't know what surah you're on, then refer to the feedback that I gave you, okay? Then task number 2 should take you no more than 5 to 10 minutes is Quranic reading. So if you remember from last time, I got you to recite, I can't remember if it was the first 12 verses. We're not going to read the same 12 verses again. We're going to read the first 6 this time. The purpose of rereading these 6 verses is, number 1, for you to listen to the feedback that was provided to you before, but also number 2, it's to allow you to kind of make progress against your last attempt. I'm not saying that you're all going to make amazing progress, but to make at least some sort of progress. Now use this link again to be able to help you to open up to Surah Yasin. Again, click the link, and then I think in the middle of the page it says enable Flash, Adobe Flash, whatever. Just press the middle of the website, and then it will open automatically. If there's a reason why you cannot open this up, can you let me know, and then I'll copy and paste this on the main chat for the group that we're in. Now again, once you've recorded yourself doing this first 6 verses only, 6, not all of it, 6 verses, then do send it back to me, and then I'll give you some feedback, inshallah. So I do expect task 1 and 2 to be sent to me almost immediately. We're talking about within the first 20 to 25 minutes of the lesson, I should have received both of these tasks. Okay? Then we go back to task 3, which is the Science and Islam project work, which is continued. Just a recap of what we were doing. The questions at the bottom are the guiding questions that we were doing last time, which was, how does blood circulate around our body? Why does it circulate in our body? And then how do the heart and blood system work together? So you were doing your learning on that using these links. Again, I did say last week that you didn't need to use every single one of these links, but to use them as you felt appropriate to support your learning. Now, this has to be completed today. This bit needs to be completed. I'm aware that some of you had already finished this, and if you have, then feel free to go to task 4. But if you haven't finished this, then stick to task 3, complete it. But all of us should finish task 4 at the minimum today. So task 4 then is connecting Islam to what we've been learning about. To make it easy for you guys, right? Because I know that there was a bit of an issue last week where we weren't understanding, comprehending, and all sorts, through no fault of your own, actually. What I thought I would do is give you 5 possible Islamic evidences. Out of these 5, it's for you to choose which you feel best connects to today's lesson. It could be one of them, could be 2 of them, could be 3 of them, could be 4, or it could be all 5 of them connect. But remember, they're not going to directly connect. None of these hadiths talk about blood flow, hearts, pumping blood around. It doesn't talk about that. You need to read it from another aspect. You need to read it between the lines, so to speak. So look, let's go through the first one. First one says, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, verily in the body is a piece of flesh which, if sound, the entire body is sound. If it's corrupt, the entire body is corrupt. Truly, it is the heart. Ask yourself, does this hadith talk about the heart? And if it does, could you connect it in some way then to what we've been learning about? Again, we're not connecting it from the Islamic perspective about blood per se, but we're connecting it from a different perspective where we're talking about, because think about it, look, we are learning about the heart, aren't we? So in theory, you should be using this evidence because the heart is what we've been learning about. Islamically, Islam talks about the heart in a different way. Second one says, the Prophet said, if you want to soften your heart, feed the poor and pat the head of the orphan. Could this connect as well? Number 3, wealth is in the heart and poverty is in the heart. Whoever is wealthy in his heart will not be harmed no matter what happens in the world. And whoever is impoverished in his heart will not be satisfied no matter how much he has in the world. Verily, he will only be harmed by the greed of his own soul. Again, ask yourself, could this connect? Number 4, no human being will enter paradise if there is as much as the weight of a seed of arrogance in his heart. Again, could this connect in some way? Number 5, the Prophet said, O people, remain straight upon the path and you will have taken a great lead. But if you swerve right or left, then you'll be led far astray. Could this connect? So ask yourself if it could connect. Now, one thing that I will say is that I'm more than happy for you to use sunnah.com, which has all the hadiths, or even quran.com. But if you're going to look for anything, I would be going into each of these sites, typing in keywords like heart, body, and maybe even blood even. Maybe you might want to do blood and just see what hadiths come up. Because it might be that, and there, by the way, there is a hadith on this, about how the life of a Muslim, if not a human being, is more sacred. So the blood of a Muslim is more sacred than the Kaaba and its contents. You know, if you think about that, that's quite deep. Because it's telling you that, you know, the blood of a human being is really important. It's actually sacred. So could you then use that hadith, for example, into what you've been learning about, for example? So that's what I mean by connecting to Islam. Then task 5. Now, I don't know if we're all going to get to this, but if we don't rush yourself, right? I'd rather you have quality rather than quantity. But if you are ready to go to task 5, you're either going to create a PowerPoint, video, newspaper or magazine article, interview or poster. If you're creating a PowerPoint, I would say 4 to 5 slides. If you're doing a video, I'm not going to say there's a time limit per se, but I would imagine a good 4 or 5 minutes worth. And it should be a video that's educational as well. It shouldn't be just, today I learned about da-da-da-da-da. It should be you educating, maybe using some pictures and whatever else. Newspaper, magazine article, simple, don't need to explain that. Interview could be either in the form of a written interview or it could be in the form of an audio interview where, you know, you're acting as 2 different people. Or maybe you've got someone to help you act as the other person, the interviewer, and you're just answering the questions. And last but not least, poster, self-explanatory. But you're going to be assessed on the work that you do, on this. So this is the rubric that I'm going to use to assess you. And look at it carefully because it's going to be on the PowerPoint anyway. I'm going to be assessing you on your knowledge, presented work, you're connecting to Islam via critical thinking and research, and you're connecting to Islam via evidence from the Quran and Sunnah. The knowledge, what I'm looking for there is, have you presented an in-depth, concise, accurate, relevant knowledge about the body and the heart and the pumping of blood? Have you done it like in-depth? So the knowledge bit is more to do with about what we've been learning about the science aspect. So this doesn't connect to Islam at all, this knowledge aspect. This is purely on how does the blood pump, how does the heart pump, you know, blood around the body, how does X, Y, and Z work together, etc. Presented work is how you presented your work. Is it in a PowerPoint or whatever else, poster, newspaper? How have you presented that? And does it suit the kind of the way you've done it? So for example, if you've got a PowerPoint, have you got enough slides? Have you got enough words on each slide? Or is it too many? Have you got enough pictures? If you're doing a video, have you given enough detail? Have you presented it in a way which is logical, that it starts from a start point and it ends in an end point? Connecting to Islam, critical thinking research is all about, have you critically researched and thought on your own about Islam and how it connects to this? So what I mean by this is you could go to Google, for example, and then, you know, type in, what does Islam say about, bleeding, for example, in Salah. Imagine if you have like a nosebleed or something. So someone might ask, does your prayer count if you bleed in Salah? So you might want to go to, like, for example, Islam QA, type that in the search box. You might want to go to Google and type in, I'm not giving you ideas here, I'm just trying to get you to think out of the box. Because when Islam talks about blood, it's either talking about it as being, can you do certain religious acts if you're bleeding, or it talks about how sacred blood is to, a human being. If it's talking about the heart, it usually is talking about it from the perspective of, how corrupt it can become, but how pure it can become. If it's talking about the body, it's talking about how to keep the body clean and so on. So it is coming from a different angle. And then last but not least, connecting to Islam, evidence from Quran and Sunnah. Again, does your presentation link itself to hadiths and verses from the Quran that strongly link itself to what you've been learning about? Again, apologies for the long video, but I think it was necessary. Once you've watched this video, then do make sure that you let me know if you've got any questions, of course. But otherwise, you just get on with your own work. And at the end of the lesson, do send me what you've got on the notepad or on the files section, or you could even send it to me by email. But I wouldn't expect many of you to finish task 5 today. You might start it, but I don't expect many of us to finish. And what we will do is we'll dedicate one lesson next week to finishing that, inshallah. And hopefully that makes sense. Again, in the meantime, if you've got any more questions, do ask.